All right, so we're rolling. And so, Miss Michelle, your experiences in urban education teaching, what can you tell me about that?
I taught in an urban school in Grand Rapids, Michigan for a year, teaching 8th grade, and then 4 years here at Providence St. Mel. And the thing that I've noticed is that you can't stereotype the kids, because I think in all urban education, people have this fear of urban education and that the kids are all from broken families or single parent households, and they're all, or most of them are on public assistance or free or reduced lunches. And I've noticed, especially working here, that that's not true, and that we have kids of doctors and lawyers, and we have kids whose parents never graduated from high school. And so when you come in expecting all of your kids to be the same, I think you're doing them a huge disservice when you figure out that they're not all the same socioeconomically, family backgrounds, education levels, ability levels, all of it is different.
And what does that, in particular, the parents' financial status, how does that impact what you're able to do in your classroom?
The financial status impacts just what I have to make available to my students, I think. You know, in some areas where kids have more resources, they can provide a wealth of resource for their child, for their parents can provide a wealth of resources for their students. They always have pencils, they always have pens, they always have new notebooks for every class, for every quarter. You know, the kids always have school uniforms or clothes that fit well. And for the kids who don't have that, you know, I keep extra pens and pencils and paper and notebooks, and understand that sometimes when a kid says I don't have it, it's not that they forgot, it's just that he ran out of space in his notebook and he just can't get another one right now. So just making sure that if the parents can't provide the tools that the kid needs to learn, that I can, or the school can, step up and provide those things.
And what about academically? What do you do to compensate for students that might lack a particular thing?
I make sure that I differentiate in the classroom and in my lessons, and that different ability levels have the opportunities to shine at different, you know, at their own ability levels. For students who are lower than the minimum benchmark that I set in my classroom, then working with them after school, or suggesting tutoring, or working with them on Saturdays, for example, just to make sure that we can get them up to the level of their peers, and then continue to raise the bar from there.
Last question. What do you do as an individual teacher that you may or may not notice in other teachers, friends of yours perhaps, at other schools?
I think I work really hard just to get to know the kids and their background.
I think particularly the school I work at, and all of the things that urban education has taught me in my lifetime. I love meeting students who want to learn, who have goals beyond getting an A in a class. They have dreams that they want to reach, not only for them, but for their family also. I enjoy meeting people that are different than me, have different backgrounds and lives, and that's always been fun to learn about and expand my worldview, or at least American view. And I like the mission of our school, and so I always want to stay.
All right. And what about the challenges that you face with your students who may or may not be as motivated at times? How do you bring them into the fold?
I think educators today have to really connect their curriculum to a student's life. It has to be important to them. If it's not, they're not going to bother with it. So it's my job to show them either that it's interesting for, you know, just for their, organically, it just is interesting and they want to know more about it, or I have to persuade them that it's important and useful and have them buy into it that way. And if I'm not doing one of those two things, at least 80% of the time for each student, then I'm not quite getting my job done, because, you know, they have to achieve for me to be successful. So, you know, if it comes down to teaching with advertisement type mechanisms, you have to do that. If it means connecting books to their real life experience, you have to do that every single time. Because if it's not relevant, they're not learning it.
think that the lack of African American males in the classroom is a good thing. I think that African American males can bring to the table, to the educational environment, uh, what I bring to the table is a great deal of passion. I can really identify with a lot of these young people because when I was their age, I thought in ways similar to what they do. A lot of the ideas that they have, both positive and negative, I had myself. And I see myself in a lot of the students in a great number of ways. And because of that, I try to thwart a lot of the mistakes that I made. I try to stifle any negative mistake that they could make. I try to immediately address it because I see myself in them in a way that maybe someone else doesn't. You know, I see that young man there and I see myself. Mm-hmm. And I passionately want to help wherever I can. And I think being a black man and making that instantaneous connection is a great benefit for me from my end, but also looking at it from the perspective of the child. When they see in me someone who, if they can somehow see themselves in the future and say, this young man says, well, hey, I would like to maybe become a professional in some form or fashion. And they can see that I've invested such a great deal in them, maybe they can make that same connection from the reverse direction, where they can look up to me in a way unlike the way they can look up to someone of a different race. So there can be, I think, a lot of connections that can be made because solely based on race. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that if a white man cannot make, my mentor, Mr. Finger, to me one of the best teachers I've ever seen in my life, could make connections at different levels, and the kids still continue to grow, but I do have certain advantages being a black man. And just the number one advantage that I think I have is that